So I'm Kevin with GunSkins. Today I'm going to be taking you through our pistol skin install. First thing we want to do, we want to get the gun good and clean. So we're going to take it outside. I'm going to hit it with some CRC non-chlorinated brake cleaner. So for the Glock, we're going to go ahead and hit it with our CRC. Same deal, I'm going to soak it down real good. Once I get the gun wet, I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to scrub the recessed areas. These little ribs along the slide, all along my front and back side. I just want to scrub around it, break loose any residue or oil that's on there. Same thing on the other side, just kind of scrub it. And then where that slide and the frame come together, where that oil wants to bleed there, I'm going to scrub that good. Then I'm going to flip it and hit it with a little bit more and work on that grip area. So we want the skin to grab down inside those contours. So we got to get it real clean for it to do that. Once we get everything scrubbed well, we're going to go ahead and soak it down one last time. That's kind of like a final rinse. Now you can do the same thing cleaning the gun with like a frog lube solvent or any other gun scrubber type product. But you just want to make sure you take your time, scrub all the recessed areas and make sure everything is rinsed and thoroughly clean in the end. Then we're going to go ahead and let it dry off, and then we're ready to put our wrap on. All right, so we have our gun all cleaned up. We're going to go ahead and give it once more over with the rubbing alcohol just to make sure there's no residue left behind before we get going with the install. All right, so again, you're going to see I'm going to focus on these recessed areas, and I'm really just wiping it off one last time. Work around the sight here, kind of cut it in as tight as you can to get it clean. And I'm using a lint-free cloth. We want to leave no dust or anything behind just to make sure we get a clean finish. So I have my pistol skin out, I'm ready to get going on the install. Along with the kit, I have my install squeegee. I'm going to use that for just pressing the material in along tight areas. I have my razor knife, that's obviously for trimming and kind of shaping things up around the edges. Then I have a piece of foam, and what I like to use this for is if I'm pressing the material down into a deep recessed area, or if I'm really trying to bring the grip out and I'm putting heat to it, I'll use that foam kind of as a buffer between my hand to push the material down into the grip, as well as kind of take away some of that edge from the heat that I'm putting to it. So you can see our kit, we have a piece for the slide and 2 pieces for the frame, as well as some additional material that you can use for different parts and pieces. To get going, we're going to go ahead and start with the slide. Material right along that ridge where the frame and the slide come together. I'm going to use my finger, press it into place. If you don't like where it's at, you can pick it up, reposition it. Same deal. I'm going to drop it on there. Use my finger to press it into place. And then from there, I'm just going to roll the material around towards that front sight and the back sight. Take my squeegee, kind of press it in there. If you don't have a squeegee, you could use a piece of cardboard or whatever you got. Be creative. Once I get it up along the edge, I'm going to hit it with some heat. And that's going to let me just manipulate the material around the sight. Use my squeegee to press it. Do the same on the back. So you can see as I'm pulling the material, I'm pulling away from the tension. Kind of helps pull those wrinkles out when you're coming around something that pops up on the gun, or like the sights or any other contours there. Just use your fingers to work it in. Once I get it around to the other side here, I'm just going to hit it with some heat. And then use my squeegee to press it in. Use that to trim it off. Peel it away. So I have my slide piece set. From here, what I'm going to do is take the heat and I'm going to contour the material around the front and back sights. And I'm going to let the material cool before I trim away any excess on the front and the back. That's just going to allow the material to get a cleaner cut. If you cut it when it's warm, the material tends to stretch and tear, and it's not going to give that finished look that we're going for. I'm just going to hit it with the heat and use my squeegee. Just kind of tool up along the edges there. Work along the back, do the same. I'm gonna hit these ribs on the side. So I'm gonna trim along the edge of the side here. Just kind of work my way around it. And on the front, I'm just gonna find a straight line. Work it around. Peel that away. Same thing on the side. So I peeled that away. I'm just gonna use the torch to tune it back out. Same thing on the back. So I'm just trying to find the natural lines when I'm trimming that too. When you press in there with the squeegee, it gives you a pretty detailed line to trace when you're trimming away to give it a natural look as you peel that vinyl away. Same thing along the back. I'm just going to find a straight line, trace around. It's important to have a sharp blade for these straight lines. All right, so I'm going to trim out this piece around the ejection port. You really want to make sure you have a fresh, sharp blade so you can get this to cut out nice and clean. And then I'm just going to angling the blade away from the gun a little bit. So you can see how there's some little frayed edges there. It's not uncommon. If you just take the torch or your heat gun and hit it and press on it, these little edges will fade away. Good to go. All right, so our slide piece is in. We're going to move on to the left frame. Pick it up. Again, we're just working that seam where the slide and the frame come together. Set it where I want it. Press it into place with my fingers. I'm going to work my way down the grip. And I'm just kind of temping it in, and then I'll use the heat to start setting it and conforming it around the contours. Kind of use your hand and the heat to just press it down along the trigger guard there. Similar to the slide piece, I'm going to use the heat to kind of contour the material around, and then once we get it where we want it, we're going to let that material cool before we trim it off. So right here where the mag release is a great place for the foam because there's a lot of depth working down to the trigger guard. So I'm going to hit it with heat, bring that foam piece in and just press on it and hold it, let it cool. I'm going to let off it. It just kind of hugs all the little curves there. my knife and just trace along the edge of that trigger guard. The same thing in the other direction. They come together there. So I'm going to take this piece and move it around the front of the grip so I can just cut that off. Let it hang. I'm going to use the heat. Kind of pull the material into place. See, if you get a wrinkle like that, you can just pull at an angle and it relieves the tension. Pretty much where we want it. I'm gonna let that sit. While that's cooling, I'll work around the back side here. So I want to make sure we make it halfway, so you might have to pull and stretch it a little bit. Material. And then here, where we have this contour where your grip is, we're gonna use heat. Kind of work it around. Up in there. So as long as I know I'm over halfway, I can trim this away. And that's going to relieve some of the tension and press it. And I can let that cool, come back and trim off the excess. Back to the front, I just want to make sure I'm over halfway with where I trim this. Run the blade down it. Peel away the excess. Same thing along the bottom here. Just take my blade, angle it along there. Trim off the excess. So on those edges, like I talked about on the slide, if it's frayed a little bit, you can use your heat gun or the torch. Just kind of hit it. Press it back in. That kind of knocks the edges off. So on this bottom piece, I'm going to use the heat to kind of contour that around. Just kind of pressing with my thumb as I'm working it through, pulling away from the tension to relieve those wrinkles. And I'm going to work it around to the far side here where this natural ridge is to seam it off at. I'm going to let that cool, come back to it and trim it off. So we're on the back side of the grip here again. It's cooled now, so I can trim off this excess. And then I'm going to bring that down. And I just want to make sure I maintain over halfway with this piece. My next piece is going to overlap it. Peel that away. You see there's a little fray there. Just kind of heat it, press it in. Back up to the front. You can see how kind of bouncing back and forth allows those pieces to cool. So I'm just going to trim in a straight line along this rail. Peel off the excess. Take my heat, you can see it's a little frayed there. Hit it with the heat, press on it with your thumb. Takes that off. So under here you got this little rail piece. I want to take my knife, slide it along it. Do the same on the other side. Alright, so I've trimmed this little rail piece. I'm going to use my knife. I'm going to pull it up, pull it tight and into place, and use my squeegee to set it. You can see those edges are slightly frayed, so if I take my heat, put it to it, run the squeegee through there, that's going to knock those edges off and set that material in place. So this little rail piece here, I'm going to heat it up and I'm going to press it down in there to contour it. You just want to hold it for a sec, let it cool. That just helps the adhesive to grab the surface of the gun there on those deeper recessed areas. And that's good to go. Okay, so I'm going to work this material down around the trigger guard. And then let that cool. While that's cooling, I'll go ahead and trim out my slide takedown piece here. Use the foam. Perfect. All right, so I got a fresh blade in. I'm gonna go ahead and trim out around this trigger guard by just angling it away, kind of working around. I'm gonna tip it up and just follow that natural curve to end it out. Peel that extra material out. Use the heat. Set that in. Then I'm going to trim out around my slide catch and my mag release. All right, so we're ready to move on to the right side frame. Same thing, working along that seam where they come together. Press it in with your fingers. And then work down. You can see there's a little fold in the material from where we had it packaged. You'll see as you press that out, it's just going to blend right out. It's not going to hurt anything. You hit it with a little heat and it's gone. Put it right down. I'll stretch that material to make sure I cover halfway. So we'll let that cool. Come back up here and I'll run my blade along the edge of this trigger guard again. sure I'm over halfway, and I'll let that cool. Start trim it away. So to relieve this tension so I can keep wrapping around there, I'm going to find my center line and just come a little bit past it and then trim in a straight line. Take that material, pull it away. So if you're familiar with our product, you'll know, like with the camo patterns, we talk about a meandering line. With the victory pattern, or like our thin blue line, things like that that have congruent straight lines or wavy flags coming through, we go with the straight line towards the midpoint, and you can see how that brings the pattern together, finishes it off. Where if we meandered it, you'd have overlapping stars or stripes coming through in parts. Same thing on the front. So I'm going to come just over my center point. Take my knife, make a straight cut. Peel away the extra material. Down on the bottom. Trace it out. So we have some additional material in the kit. I like to use it for underside of the trigger guard there. I'm just going to peel that off, place it up under there, just press it into place, and work it around to the front. Use the heat to set it, and I'm going to let it cool and trim that away. So here, instead of trimming a straight line or a meandering, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and follow the pattern. So I have this star that comes up in here, and I know I'm covering more than I need to with the vinyl here, so I'm going to trim it away along this star to help blend it out where this and that other piece come together. So we have our pistol skin installed. I'm ready to move on to the post-heat phase of the process. And what this is really taking heat and just working the entire thing. I'm going to use a heat gun for that as opposed to the torch. And a good way to look at that is the heat gun is more like a shotgun blast. It covers more of the area with an even surface heat as opposed to like a specific area with the torch. And then I'm going to just take the foam and the squeegee and I'm going to press the material into place to reveal the contours and just set it for good. All right, so I'm getting it hot. I'm just going to start pressing with the foam. So we're all done with our post heat. At this point, you just want to make sure everything's functional. Rack it back, make sure everything's moving the way it should, nothing's hanging up. Pull it back, disassemble it, make sure everything comes apart the way it should. You can check along the slide, make sure you don't have any edges that are going to hang up, or where your slide catch lands in there, make sure that's trimmed out well, and then you're good to go. So we're complete with our pistol skin project. Thanks for joining us.
Wrap up your guns and gear, camouflage it all out. GunSkins is here, flat rate, shipping that's right. $5, $5. Fully loaded, guaranteed to make you holler. If you ain't happy, get your money back. AR-15 skin, it's where it's at. Mac Raps Pistol Skin, give me 2 or 3 of that. Install it yourself, it's so easy, yeah. Get yourself a gun skin, have fun with it. Get yourself a gun skin, have fun with it. Made in the USA, waterproof, matte finish, 5-year warranty. They done did it, GunSkins.